The search for eternal life is a well-worn path in media. Indiana Jones searched for the Holy Grail in Jordan. Nathan Drake sought Shambhala in Nepal. Now, Lara Croft seeks it in the Siberian wastes. What sets Rise of the Tomb Raider apart from most other search for eternal life stories is the reckoning it brings to Lara and the Croft family. Death has followed the Croft family wherever they go. Lara's mother died not too long after she was born, and her father killed himself when Lara was still a preteen. This is personal. Lara's father's work and her relationship with him kick off Rise proper. Before he died, Lara's father had studied the lost city of Katesh in an attempt to bring back his wife. Lara rediscovers his research and sets off. Rise's story is undoubtedly one of its stronger components, continuing the trend started in 2013's Tomb Raider. Lara herself, played by Camilla Luddington, is its strongest character. She's tougher than in the 2013 reboot, but still unsure of her abilities. Luddington performed the motion capture for the character and fills her performance with nuance. She allows players to witness every wince, look of shock and relief in Lara's face. Her vocal performance is convincing as well. Every time a beautiful vista appears, and there were a lot of them, she conveys both a sense of awe and the sense of regret her father isn't there to see it with her.
Stunning. We made it, Dad.
The game's villains are just as strong. While saying too much would get into spoiler territory, suffice it to say they have their own compelling reasons for their reprehensible actions. Unfortunately, the side characters are nowhere near as compelling, with one spoiler-filled exception. Even the random goons players mow down, suffocate, or sneak past entirely tell their own stories in offhand chatter. It's almost enough to make a player regret slitting their throat. Almost. Part of that believability is due to the graphics the game boasts. This game is beautiful, and developer Crystal Dynamics lets players know at every turn. The camera pans out every time players enter a new area or come across one of the many challenge tombs, to let players bask in how gorgeous these environments look. The graphical fidelity extends to the characters as well. Rise does not go for photorealism. Instead, it opts for a smoothness that fits right in line with the game's environments. The lighting that helps make the game's environments so beautiful does equal work on the character models. Lights rise and fade as Lara climbs through the game's many areas and bounce off her increasingly roughed up clothing. Environmental effects are especially worthy of note. Towards the end of the game, the player is frequently faced with smoke thick enough to choke on as enemies lurk within. These moments are among the game's most harrowing. Much of the game is spent exploring. Rise's many locales are chock full of things to do and find, from hidden coin stashes to relics and audio logs to the optional challenge tombs dotted across the landscape. There were more challenge tombs than in the 2013 game. This makes it easier for Lara to hem closer to her job description. Jokes aside, the 9 tombs are the best part of the game, containing many of the more challenging puzzles on offer. The puzzles in the challenge tombs really feel like puzzles to be solved, not obstacles to the next jaw-dropping action sequence. The rewards players get for beating these tombs are earned, not given, and are certainly powerful enough to be worth the trouble. Unfortunately, the combat is not up to par with the rest of the game. The stealth elements are fun, sneaking around and taking out enemies one by one, and getting the kill animations is satisfying, but once it's weapons free, Rise becomes a serviceable at best third-person shooter. Lara can more than hold her own in combat, and the game seems to realize this. It completely abandons stealth in the last section of the game until it brings back stealth in one of the most frustrating boss battles ever. Not only does the battle require stealth, it requires the use of an otherwise completely optional mechanic that was introduced near the beginning of the game and never explicitly mentioned again. It makes for a terrible ending to an otherwise stellar game. Rise of the Tomb Raider makes its 2013 predecessor seem underwhelming by comparison. While the 2013 game isn't bad by any means, Rise blows it out of the water. Rise is one of the best third-person action games this generation, and arguably one of the finest of the decade.